Hello, my Bill for Thousand Nation. How's everyone doing today? Hopefully, everyone's having a great day. If not, I hope it gets better from here. We are back with another That Chapter. This one is titled The Horrific Death Trap Students Were Taken Into Mount Hood Disaster. Alright, I'm excited. I'm ready to get into today's story. If you guys are as ready as I am, go ahead, turn them lights down low, put on something comfy, couple, someone special. Let's get horrified. I like being horrified. It's fun.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we are going to when a group of young hikers were looking to climb Mount Hood in Oregon. This was, a lifelong goal, they were excited, and it was actually part of the school program they were in. It was mandatory, Get up there. However, just a few short hours into their climb, a storm would hit the mountain, resulting in one of the scariest disasters in mountain climbing history.
Oh shit.
Of all the people who were on the mountain that day, only a quarter would survive. Let's give it a go.
Only a quarter of them would survive? I mean, if there's 100 people, that's at least 25 people who got to live, so...
The year was 1986, and a group of students were at the Oregon Episcopal School, a private boarding school, and they were gearing up for the expedition. The plan was a 12-hour trek to summit Mount Hood. They were all part of a program called Base Camp.
I know exactly what would have helped all of them. They would have all stayed nice and warm and toasty. That's some Bill 5000 merch, bro. It's so nice and warm and comfy. They would have been nice and toasty. They all would have lived. If they would have only had some Bill 5000 merch. All over print hoodie. Gotta love it.
It was mandatory for all 10th graders at the school, so they're all, about 15, 16 years of age. The idea was personal growth. This was part of Outward Bound, an international outdoor education organization. It's in lots of schools under different names, like Base Camp, depending on what the activity is. And it's educating through adventure. Putting students in challenging and, maybe, dangerous situations to see how they react, and hopefully, they'll come out the other side of it stronger people, like throwing your kid in the deep end of the pool sort of thing. Now, it's not like they weren't trained, right? They were put through months of basic training in mountain climbing, how to properly climb, what to do if you fall, first aid, all that sort of thing. And they had all the equipment, you might need. It was an overnight trek, so they would have, slings and harnesses. There was a stove, there was a sleeping bag. They were, pretty well prepared for the trek ahead.
Oh, yeah.
They were setting out from Timberline Lodge, a mountain lodge.
And anytime you're going camping or out in the wilderness, even if you know the place and you've been there 1,001 times, it's always good to be prepared. You never know what Mother Nature is going to throw at you. Period. She can be fickle, but she's beautiful.
They were given their ice axes, helmets, shovels, and ways to mark their path. Now, to give this story an even more kind of, eerie feeling, is that Timberline Lodge is where they filmed The Shining, so... the more you know. They were being led.
Here's Johnny.
By Thomas Goman. He was the school's well-liked chaplain, and he taught mathematics and religion. And at 42 years of age, he was an experienced climber.
Needs a haircut.
He had made the ascent a number of times, and had the skills to lead a grade 1 ascent. Which is not, especially hard, technical climbing. I mean, it's a bit of a trek, nonetheless. But, grade 1 would be like Kilimanjaro. It's you don't need to be, in there, that sort of thing. But it's, you'd want to be prepared. Tom, though, was known as being a bit reckless when it came to...
You're not going to automatically die walking up it, but you do need to be prepared for death, right?
Mountain climbing, not with others, but with himself and his own safety. He was a go-getter. He was determined nothing would stop him.
Hell yeah.
To a fault.
Oh shit.
So climbing would be
Never
15
mind.
students and 5 adults. The adults being Thomas Goman leading, then Marion Horwell, Dean of Students, Sharon Spray, mother of one of these students, Dee Zuniak, another Outward Bound instructor, and Ralph Summers, who was a professional mountain climbing guide. On May 12th at 2:30 a.m., 20 people set out to conquer, Mount Hood. Little did they know at the time that they were walking into a death trap.
Why? Why did they not
Climbing
know?
Mount Hood is no picnic, but if you're trained and have hiked mountains, it's not the toughest. Weather is the biggest factor. That's what makes or breaks an ascent. The weather forecast for the base camp's journey was unsettled. It had been a little all over the place the past 2 days, and there had been fresh snowfall. More snow and rain were expected, along with a storm.
That don't sound good.
Those conditions, they actually cancelled a number of climbs, other people were making around the same time, though others would say, it's grand, like it's fairly doable. And the base camp, group, they were saying, listen, we'll be up and back. Won't even see the storm, be in and out. So the group set out, and immediately they were wading through calf-high snow up a very steep incline. So, and I mean, the students, the adults, the 20 of them, they were already fairly exhausted and fatigued. So, I mean, they set out at 1:30 a.m., right? Which is normal for most mountain climbs. You want to set out around that time when the weather is calm and you're it's behind you when the weather would usually start to get bad. So, but that also means that if you're not really prepared, you're going to be operating on zero sleep, which is what most of these people were operating on, as they were students who had never done anything like this before. About 45 minutes in, Sharon Spray, who was one of the adults, and her daughter Hillary, they were thrown in a towel.
I would say this is probably going to end badly, but we know it ends badly. I mean, horrific death trap. I get it, but damn.
This is hard enough already. Like, they had stomach cramps. The kind of stomach cramps you get when you're so exhausted from not sleeping. So they were already like, no.
I thought he was going to say, the kind of stomach cramps, from when your period starts. When that flow comes and just hits you right upside the face out of nowhere, don't want to be on a mountain.
Oh, no. Tom Goman, the leader, he was coming up to him. He was like, come on, we can do it. We can do it together. Let's go. Just go a little bit further. We haven't even started proper. But, they said,
grab your socks and rock your cocks. Let's go.
This is not a good start. We're 45 minutes in and we can't even do this. So they went back. Personally, after about 10 minutes, I would have been like, this is shit. Mic out. So they saw then the 18 of them marching off into the darkness up Mount Hood. The only sounds was the wind and snow crunching under their feet. It turned out Sharon and Hillary Spray made the right decision. They listened to their gut, quite literally. The group made it to a ski lift called Palmer Chair that would take them up a few thousand feet, and from there, the trek would continue. It wasn't especially complicated. The entire summiting operation is pretty straightforward as things go. Dawn then slowly began, and the view was stunning, jaw-dropping. You could see all across beautiful. Oregon, and it's one of the main reasons to even make the climb. While the Mount.
I get that. That would be the only reason why I'd want to. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't like heights. Heights scare the shit out of me, bro.
That behemoth was towering above them. They still had a good bit to go. As I said, exhaustion and fatigue were setting in, but keep the head down, power on through. You'll be up and back. You can tell the storm to take a hike. It was then at Silcock's Hut, a warming station about 1,000 feet above the Timberline Lodge, that some students started wavering. It turned out this was a lot more difficult than any of them had thought. Two of the students, they were getting cramps. Again, Tom would come up cajoling, come on here, listen, we're almost there. You can do it. I believe in you.
You can
they didn't
do
believe
it.
In themselves, and so
you can do it all night long.
They said, listen, we're sorry, you have to go. Tom, he was so excited, the school chaplain, he was always there for the kids, but so he was thinking, I don't want you to give up, when we're so close, for your own sake. You'll be the one missing out, but they wanted to go. He's like, listen, well, here, when we're telling the stories later back at the lodge, don't come crying to me. But at this stage, good couple of hours into it, dawn had begun breaking. They were an hour behind schedule.
I'm like, nah, fool, you ain't finishing this shit without me. See, he would have had me. He would have goaded me right into that bullshit. I'm stupid.
And so They still were thinking they're good for time, but with a storm rapidly approaching, an hour behind schedule, not a good place to be. They continued trekking through the snow. They were the only people on the mountain that day, and 2 more students would throw in the towel. And in fact, one of the base ground instructors, Dee Zuniak, she would end up having to actually retreat. She didn't want to, but she was suffering from snow blindness. The UV rays bouncing off the snow burns essentially it's eyeball sunburn, which is exactly as delightful as it sounds. Incredibly uncomfortable, incredibly painful for her to be there. So she was like, listen, adios. She was shielding her eyes, waving at the now 13 of them who were climbing the mountain. And Tom was there. The 13 people who were left going up. He was there. He was the cheerleader. He was going around. He was cracking jokes. He was in the middle of the group. And so he was, keeping morale up. He's like, guys, let's go do this. Come on, we're almost there. And then Dee Zuniak left at about 11:30 a.m. And it was approximately an hour and a half after she left that they noticed the wind picking up. And it wasn't like a slow thing. This was like, boom.
Hits you straight in the dick type
like
shit.
A freight train. Well, whoop-de-frickin' do. Visibility dropped to almost nothing in the space of 5 minutes, while strong gusts of wind were hitting them like sledgehammers. The snow had come back, and temperatures were dropping dramatically.
Is it a blizzard?
Now, at this point, Ralph Summers, the professional guide, was saying here, listen, this is a bad idea. We hope to be up and back before the storm hasn't even hit, and we're not even up yet. Never mind getting back. We should turn around now while we still can. But Tom, listen, storm's gonna be fine. We're almost there. Let's just push on through. We can do this. Ralph, just, keep an eye on the kids. He kept walking. Ralph again. Tom, turn around. I'm a professional guide. This is why you hired me. We can't. This is too dangerous. They're kids. We can't take them up on this. Tom, still stubborn.
At a certain point, I would look at Tom and I'd tell him, go fuck yourself. I'm being serious. Like, I understand he knows what he's doing. He's got God on his side and all that shit. But, man, the dude's got intelligence and he's been there, done it. Like, he's got that shit. I forget the word, but he's got it. Experience. Ha ha. ADHD, leave me alone. But he's got the experience. He's got the know-how. I would listen to him. I don't think preacher dude's taking us down a good road. I don't. One of those Jesus take the wheel moments.
It's all hell. We can do this. We can do this. Dan Ralph finally, he went ahead about 30-40 feet ahead. We could not see a group behind him at all, and he took one look at the trail they were supposed to be climbing and the storm that was ravaging this side of the mountain, and he said,
Deuces.
No, I refuse. We are not continuing on.
So I'm out, bro.
He went back to Tom, and Tom finally relented. He went under great duress. Finally relented. So Tom, disheartened, there goes that dream. He said, "All right, guys, we're not gonna be able to make it. Let's turn around. Start going back down the mountain. Let's start descending and make sure we get home safe. All we have to do is follow our trail, right? Follow your own footsteps."
Covered in snow.
It's just the trail was now gone. They kept going now in whiteout conditions, and the group started spreading further and further apart. One student, 15-year-old Patrick McGinnis, collapsed on the trail. Patrick was one of the skinnier members of the group, so he didn't, so the cold was hitting him a lot more than it would have been the others, and so he was slowing, and then he was dragging, and then he hit the ground, and all he wanted to do was sleep. Classic signs of hypothermia. So
Don't
the rest
sleep,
of the group,
bro.
they all gathered up.
They
gathered up around him. They got out the only sleeping bag they had, and they stuffed Patrick inside. And another student, Susan McClave, she very bravely, she took off her own jacket, she took off her own boots, and she got into the sleeping bag with him and was hugging him, using her own body warmth to try and stave off the hypothermia. Ralph, he got out the stove, he started heating up water, he put some lemon drops and melted them in the water, and gave that Patrick some hot sugary water to try and get his temperature back up. Staying there with Patrick, trying to almost revive him, that took about an hour, while the storm only got worse and worse. The trail was now nowhere to be seen, and Tom was leading them. And without seeing the trail, he was using his compass. He ended up leading them way off track. Instead of going down the mountain, they were going across the mountain. In a whiteout condition like that on a mountain, you can't tell the difference between the sky and the feet, where your feet are going. He eventually led them to the edge of a glacier, which only makes things dramatically worse when you're surrounded by crevasses and you can't see a bleeding thing. Ralph Summers then, he said,
Damn thing.
I'm taking charge. We're going to try and cross this area, but just follow my footsteps. Don't put your feet anywhere else, only where I have put my feet. And slowly the group began to sidle across this frozen glacier area. They continued to cross, but now it was 7 p.m. and it was getting dark again. The storm...
Bro, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. My balls are tight as fuck right now. I am nervous as a sumbitch. I'm nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Oh, man. I'm gonna punch Tom in his fucking face, bruh. I ain't even gonna lie. Some bitch.
Not stopping. It was then that Ralph made the crucial decision to stop the group. They needed to hunker down, they needed to find shelter, and just wait for rescue, because if they stay out in this, they're all gonna die. Ralph got out their shovel, the only shovel they had, and he dug a snow cave. A snow cave in the ground. So people went. It was very, very small. People had to get on their hands and knees to get inside.
He'll keep you
It could
warm.
only fit 6 people. There was 13 of them. The 6 who could fit in were all on top of each other, curled up. And I mean on top of each other, literally, faces in the snow walls while the roof was... They're in it, essentially. Especially because, they're carrying all these heavy jackets, backpacks, all that sort of stuff. Some of them inside started getting panic attacks from the claustrophobia and felt like they could not breathe in there, that they were running out of air in this tiny little cave, while their own body heat was making the cave smaller and smaller as the roof started to drip down more and more, and a puddle of water was forming essentially everywhere around them. They were lying in it. But that was inside. The other option was outside in the blizzard. They took turns rotating who was inside and who was out, and Tom Goman, who was maybe feeling partially responsible for this situation they found themselves in, spent most of the time outside, seemingly punishing himself. And those inside could hear,
Don't blame
barely,
him. He should have
just
been.
over the gale force winds that were out there. Just barely they could hear him screaming. When dawn arose on Tuesday morning, Ralph asked Tom count to 10. He couldn't. The wind had sucked away pretty much all their equipment, including the shovel, and those who were inside the cave were at huge risk of being buried alive by all the snow that was falling. It was then Ralph decided to climb down to get help. Ralph and another student, Molly, descended and immediately vanished into the blizzard. The cave entrance was getting smaller and smaller every minute while the blizzard did not abate, and it started getting dark once again. By evening of Tuesday, the cave, it was essentially a tomb. You could not see it from the outside. And there was 8 students who had managed to force themselves into that cave to find rescue. It could only hold 6, but they figured it out with the 2 others who got inside there. And if it was claustrophobic and people were getting panic attacks before, you can imagine what it's like now, but that's how bad it was. And the 3 who were outside had tried to get into the cave to seek shelter, but they couldn't even get a hand in. That's how tightly packed inside they were. And the snow kept falling on top of them and on top of them. However, by this stage, word had already begun to spread that they hadn't made it down the mountain, and Portland Mountain Rescue were at Timberline on Tuesday morning.
Okay, the only thing you can do right now is wait for the weather. One, the helicopters are pretty much useless because of the high winds and low visibility. The ground teams that they have deployed up there, and there's 4 different teams on different parts of the mountain, are holed up, and they're waiting till the weather can break.
But due to the blizzard, there wasn't anything they could do. It was too dangerous for them to go up. The wind was so strong, a snowcat they had
My God,
I'm not
this is stressful, bro.
And did a backflip. The winds are so strong, it flipped the snowcat. The team assembling would say this was the worst storm they'd ever seen during a search. The wind was 103 miles, it's 165 kilometers per hour. You can't even stand up in that. It will literally take you with it off the side of a mountain. They set out, kinda, but with no helicopters, in whiteout conditions, and with no idea where they were going, they didn't get far at all. And Mountain Hood is pretty big. Ralph and Molly, though, were slowly making their way down the mountain, and after 6 hours, they arrived at a lodge. The lodge was about 2 miles from Timberline, and the only reason they made it was because they were the 2 most experienced people in the entire group. They actually got lucky finding this lodge. They had no clue where they were.
And it was really crowded in the snow cave. We had some problems with breathing and that kind of thing.
What happened last night exactly?
Well, we were trying to find our way back down. We came about 14 feet from the summit.
It's
and
fucking Tom, bruh.
We had some problems
I'll tell
with
you what the
thermal
problem is.
fluid.
It's fucking Tom. Everything's Tom's fucking fault.
It wasn't until Wednesday morning, and the group had been on the mountain since early hours of Monday, that the rescuers were finally able to get the snowcat going up the mountain. Helicopters in the air. The weather had calmed, and it was clear enough.
How many are still
And as
alive,
the
though?
sun rose that
That's my question. How many of them poor children are still alive?
Wednesday, they approached an area called White River Canyon. They saw 2 black dots in like the endless white, hoping this must be something. They rushed over to. Going over, it was 2 bodies, curled up in the fetal position. The body temperature was half of what it should be. They were almost frozen solid. It was Alison Linsenberger and Aaron O'Leary. They were gone. And looking up, they saw a 3rd black dot. That was another student, Eric Sandvik. He had been desperately trying to get into that cave, but had just curled up and died there.
Described as fatalities. They're being rushed in their state,
Which is?
frozen at this point.
The 3 bodies were discovered nearby at about 8,200 feet elevation. The unidentified bodies were taken by life flight helicopter to Portland hospitals for a desperate attempt to somehow try to revive them. Searchers continued to crisscross the mountain looking for the other 8.
Now, the rescuers continued searching. They didn't know where the cave was, and at this stage, it was completely buried in snow. And the tree bodies they found were a good bit away from the cave, because the wind had blown them away from it. But their bodies were like in a line, so they were thinking, all right, how about if we can follow this, we might be able to kind of zero in on where it should be. But they were looking, they were searching everywhere. They could not find it, while it was directly under their feet the entire time. As that Wednesday evening approached, they had the bodies of 3 students, but no idea where the rest were. They kept searching and searching, though, as darkness began to fall. It would turn out they had been on top of the cave for hours, and a helicopter pilot was the one who had a gut feeling as to where they should be. They went back to an area they had already searched, but this time they went with avalanche poles, which is these big, long, like 10 feet poles, metal poles you stick in. Stick them in. Go a couple more. Stick it in. Go a little more. Stick it in, and this time, the guy doing it, he felt they hit something hard. 22 minutes before the search was due to end, they hit something. He alerted the others, and they began digging, eventually opening a hole into a hollow area. One person stuck their head in and smelled this really strong, really bad, vile smell coming out of this area. Bad smells are usually the sign of people. They found the 8 remaining climbers, though only 2 of them were still alive, and they barely. 4 students were dead: Patrick McGuinness, Tasha Amy, Richard Hayter, and Susan McClave, along with 2 adults: Marion Horwell, the Dean of Students, and Thomas Goman. One of these survivors, Giles Thompson, would lose both his legs. Of the 6 who didn't make it, it's believed they passed away about 24 hours before they were found, late on Tuesday night, hours after Ralph and Molly went to get help. The 2 survived. It's thought they only did so because they were packed so tightly into this tiny little cave they couldn't even move, and the 2 people who made it were at the top of the pile, on top of their dead classmates and teachers. That
Gross.
insulated them from the worst of the cold coming up from the ground. Of the 13 people who continued that climb up Mount Hood, only 4 would survive, 2 of them the most experienced, and one of those would lose both their legs. The families of these survivors would call this a death march, a death trap. There would be lawsuits against the school that base camp was a killing program. Ultimately, the blame would mostly be laid at Thomas Goman's feet, that his stubbornness to continue to try and reach the summit ended up causing this disaster.
Hell yeah.
There was a million times they should have turned back while they had the
Should have
chance,
been.
but they didn't. Those who gave up because they were in pain or they had a tummy ache or whatever were the lucky ones.
Yeah, fuck Tom, bro.
9 people died during this. The base camp program was ultimately suspended, and the survivors all have terrible trauma, as you can imagine. I mean, Mount Hood has a fairly ongoing history of bad stuff happening, including a helicopter crashing on the side of the mountain.
Holy shit.
But this disaster still remains one of the worst, the second worst mountain disaster in North American history. And those who lost their lives are still remembered every year to this day. And that's going to do it for this whole video. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Mike, that was a very horrific story. I loved it, though. It was a good story. Man, just think, like, schools used to make you do a lot of stupid shit back in the day. Thank God you don't have to do half that shit now. All right. I really enjoyed today's story. If y'all enjoyed today's story as much as I did, please go down there, leave a thumbs up. And while you're down there, go on over, hit that subscribe button, become part of the Bill 5000 Nation. We do some crazy shit here, bro. And if you want to know when that crazy shit happens, ding that bell. If it works for you, then you might know whenever my premiere is happening and I get to talk to you in the live chat. That would be amazing. I love talking to my peoples. And if you really want to and you like me that much, go on down in the description. Check out my store. We got some amazing new merch. It's sexy beautiful. That's all I can say. Definitely would have kept all of them warm because it's fire. All right. I really hope you all enjoyed today's story. I'm out. That's got me fucked up. All those kids just freezing to death. I'm out. I can't do it. No, I'm trying to make it through as good as I can. I'm done. As always, be good to one another. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Yep, fuck all that. Oh, those poor babies. Oh my God.